today we got called Heartseeker Rogue build, completely off meta, but I made it work all the way up to pit tier 125 with all of the items that you see here, and I'm still lacking 2 more mythics. So I guess the maximum reach for this build would be something around pit tier 130, which is quite impressive considering that it's completely off meta. This is a basic rogue, basic damage dealing rogue. Okay, we play with basic spell, only it's Heartseeker and everything else supports the Heartseeker. What are the pros and cons of the build? First of all, no one plays it, so maybe you can consider it. And second, even though it seems scary with all of these mythics to assemble them and whatnot, you don't need them for this build to clear everything. So all pinnacle bosses on Torment 12, all the content in the game, Helltide, Escalation dungeons, Mephisto, Lilith and so on. You just need uniques, okay? If you can grab mythics, great, but I'm hoping the build will work later on in season 15, 16, and that's why I'm also creating this entire video. And what's the main con? As with every other rogue marksman build, stop and pop, you break the fluidity of the game. You gotta position, shoot, reposition, shoot, and you don't deal damage non-stop because you gotta stop in order to deal damage. That would be the biggest downside of the build, but still it's quite fast. Not as fast, of course, as Dance of Knives Rogue or any other rogue like Twisting Blades that can move and deal damage, but it's quite good because it's different, I guess. Anyways, let's not waste time. Let's see what the build is. As always, we're gonna start from Specialization. We're gonna take Inner Sight cause we do need critical strike chance and critical strike damage. For the Mercenaries, we're gonna go with Rahir with Taunt, and we're gonna go with Variana for the attack speed. This build profits a lot out of attack speed as well, by the way. And now comes the itemization. We got Shaco. It's not mandatory. You can, until you find Shaco, you can go with something, any helmet with all around resists, plus the imbuement, and for the aspect, for the imprint, you can go with full damage reduction while wielding two-handed weapon. I think it goes up to 30-40% or something. That would be the helmet option. The runes for the helmet, I was using Igni and Vex, okay, plus the all skills and accumulation. Now for the armor, same like I said for the helmet, you don't need Tyrael's Might. I just did it out of fun because no one is using Tyrael's Might. I want to see if I can make it, you know, valid, and I can. The build actually works with Tyrael's Might. I had a good Tyrael's Might and I was like, I want to use it. So what if you don't have Tyrael's Might with all of the stats, all resists and so on? Again, similar like I said for helmet, something like 100% and 50% increase armor until you grab Tyrael's Might for the imprint. Of course, gems, full dexterity. Now this is mandatory and there is no playing a basic build in the game without paying Gorgers. That's just how it is. Same applies for Barbarian, Rogue, no matter what build you play, paying Gorgers are a must. This is your most mandatory item in the game for this build. You gotta have them. What about the stats on a paying Gorger? Critical strike chance, critical strike damage, vulnerable damage, attack speed, dex, or life. Of course, offensive modifiers are far more valuable than defensive modifiers on the gauntlets. As far as the tempering goes, we want critical strike damage. For Tyrael's Might, it was life, and for Shaco, it was life. If you like armor, you can also add armor for the temper in your armor. Now the pants, Shrouded Gift, an absolute must. It can be also unique. You need damage reduction when you are concealed, because you're gonna be concealed non-stop, you're gonna be invisible, okay? And this is what keeps you alive, basically. For the stats, movement speed is absolutely great. The rest should be all defensive modifiers, but make sure you got movement speed. Now, as far as the runes go, I was playing with Buck and Q. Very simple, Earth and Bulwark. barrier, basically. For the boots again, all resist, life, dex, move speed for the temper, and for the imprint we go with marksman skills, deal up to increase damage. Now, for the main weapon, bow or a crossbow, what we want for the temper would be critical strike chance. And as far as the other stats go, critical strike damage, dex, life, all damage multiplier, absolutely great, or cold damage multiplier if you can get all. For the imprint, maximum ferocity stacks go up by 12. Why? Because it merges with a ring. Now, if you can find this one as a mythic, then your damage will scale up like crazy, because if I can right now barely do 125 with a mythic Scoundrel's Kiss and with a mythic Signet of Pelgane, the build drastically changes. Now, there are a few tricks that we need to discuss later on, but for now, as I said, once we have that ferocity, we also need the mandatory item after paying Gorgers, would be the most mandatory item, would be the Scoundrel's Kiss, because it increases damage by the stacks of ferocity, it merges with a bow or a crossbow. Imprint, yeah. And for the stats on it, all damage multiplier, cold damage multiplier, vulnerable damage multiplier, critical strike chance, critical strike damage, attack speed, dex, that's about it. When it's mythic, it's absolutely crazy good. Now, for the other ring, Signet of Pelgane, we deal freeze damage, and we need Signet of Pelgane. If it's mythic, even better, you're gonna deal 20% instead of 15, I think. And for the modifiers, we go with dex, all damage, critical damage. Now you see cooldown reduction, because I was testing some stuff, but it's still not done, because there is one more build that you can play with cooldown reduction, which we're gonna speak about later on. But instead of cooldown reduction here, of course, you need critical strike chance or attack speed until you acquire everything that I'll talk about very soon. For the amulet, now, amulet, we go with plus 2 all skills. You get it on a brick box, okay? And for the modifiers, all damage, vulnerable damage, critical strike chance, critical strike damage, and that's about it. Now for the imprints, cold damage deals increased damage to shield enemies, and down there for the second imprint, you can either go with overpower, then deal 30% increased damage per stack of overpower, or you can go apply chill and deal 20% increased damage to chilled enemies, because they're gonna be chilled non-stop. So that would be the amulet, the rings, and how they merge with a crossbow. And now, I would say the third most mandatory item is the Shard of Eratiel, where the basic damage comes from. Okay, this is like absolutely mandatory. You wanna deal damage only with Heartseeker, you gotta have Shard of Eratiel. Unique is more than fine. You don't need Mythic immediately, yeah. Basic skills, deal, increase damage, but cost primary resource. You won't get out of resource. This is like very small penalty considering the amount of damage output, okay? And the stats, dex, life, crit, all basic skills of course on Veratiel, that's about it. Now for the second weapon, Etna Last Dagger. Now this is a bad Etna, I was just testing the build if it can do harder content with wrong stats. Of course we need Etna instead of damage over time multiplier, it has to be critical damage, okay? And plus the imbue, all damage multiplier, cold damage multiplier, dexterity instead of weapon damage would be perfect, okay? And for the temper, instead of imbue, potency, of course we're gonna go with critical strike chance and how you see it on Shard of Eratiel. So Etna is completely wrong, but you get a point. If I can do 125 with a wrong weapon, where I'm only using basically the passive ability of the weapon, everything is clear how great the build actually is for enough meta build. For the gems, we go with blues, cold damage multiplier. If you don't have them enough, switch for one white for one diamond. Whites, diamonds in amulet and rings, and I think that's about it with itemization. Now, why you see cooldown reduction for a temper? There are two build variants for the Heartseeker, which we're gonna talk very soon. So when you play without cooldown reduction on items, you're gonna play with Procession upgrade on a Heartseeker. But when you play, if you find a mythic seal with cooldown reduction, and if you apply cooldown reduction on helmet, armor, amulet, rings, plus the tempering, cooldown reduction, then you can switch for Confluence, because you're gonna deal insane amount of damage, but you need extremely high cooldown reduction so you can spam Confluence, because Confluence deals like 10 times more damage than Procession, but it has a long cooldown, 5-6 seconds or so. Even now with my cooldown, 5 to 6 seconds. If you can reduce that one to 1 second or so on a cooldown, then you switch to Confluence, and then I guess Heartseeker goes up to 135. Basically, they might do something about it in the next season. We might see a buff for cooldown reduction on a Heartseeker, and then you can go with it. Let Heartseeker damage, okay? You know that the Rain of Arrows build is played with Confluence, where you assemble enemies in one spot and then you shoot them with ulti. This is completely different. You play without ulti, you just shoot them with this. Anyways, you stick with Procession until you acquire Omega cooldown reduction. If not, just stick with Procession. What about the Talismans? Talismans, we play with Narrow Eye set, and is the mandatory thing to have, okay? What we want is Marksman skills, Imbuement skills, Marksman skills, or Lucky Hit, deal increased cold damage, lightning damage, fire damage, it doesn't matter if you can roll Lucky Hit, okay? That would be the first set, and the second set, once you have the mythic seal, of course, until you don't, you play with 5 of these and any unique that's gonna raise marksman damage. For the second set, it's more of the sightless stealth. You're gonna enter stealth non-stop because of the skills, and you're gonna receive 60% increased damage, okay, and you're gonna reset and so on. So they merge quite well. Same applies for stats. If you can get Lucky Hit, Marksman, or Imbue, good. For the seal, critical strike chance is the most important one, and anything that's gonna give Narrow Eye any bonuses. I had luck here, it gave 10% to Marksman, 7, excuse me, it gave 7% to Marksman, but still lucky. Okay, not perfect, but it is what it is. That would be the Talismans and the sets. And now to the skill tree. So mandatory would be Heartseeker. We play with basic skill, we shoot with Procession, and we get critical strike chance, and we get Pierce. We skip the entire core, we go down, we take Dash, we're gonna take Weaken, and we're gonna take charges and cooldown reduction into Primer, because we wanna get into stealth non-stop and get Ferocity. For the Subterfuge, now we're taking Dark Shroud, we're mixing it out, we're gonna take Shadow Dancer into Critical Strike and into Consume Chance. Once we're done with that, we're gonna take Concealment, we're gonna take Resolve, we're gonna take Ferocity, and we're gonna take Calculation upgrade. Then we're gonna go down, and we're only taking Cold Imbuement with cooldown and Resolve upgrades, and of course we take Buffered Battery for the barrier. And down here for the ulti, of course, because Shadow Clones are marksmen because of the sentry. Now they scale like crazy because of the sets, okay? So they deal damage as well. And we're gonna take Weaken and Vulnerable for the cooldown reduction. Plus you're gonna have huge cooldown reduction because of the Talismans, or should I say, because of the Sightless set. And that would be the skill tree. And now we're gonna transfer to Paragon. What have we done with Paragon here? So the starting, as you can see it right here, it looks like this, and we're gonna put Kenny. Now we're switching to the second board, it looks like this, pause when you need to, and we're gonna take Exploit Weakness. For the Glyph, we're taking Control. This is how it looks like. Then for the third board, we're going to the left, we're gonna take Eldritch Bounty. And here we're taking Devious. You see how it looks like. Copy paste basically. Then for the fourth board, we're taking Chip Shot, and the glyph would be Combat. This is how it looks like. And for the final board, fifth board, so we're going now from Exploit Weakness to the right. We're taking Dance Macabre, and the glyph would be Assassin, and that's about it. So believe it or not, these when I said I reached 125, my glyphs are only 100, so they're not 120, 30, or God forbid 150, and Paragon level is like 267. So this potential of this build If you got all mythics with favorable rolls, if you get lucky on Transmog, if you have Paragon close to 300, and if you have Glyphs on 130 plus and so on, I believe the build easily goes up to 135, 140 in the pit. Maybe even higher, excuse me, in the tower. Maybe even higher in the pit. But in the tower, 135 would be the best because you're gonna lack resists for further. Okay. The build, actually, the build's main con is you cannot restore life. Only flasks for life. So if you get lucky for life on hit or something like that, great. On a transmog, any item with life on hit would be great here for a transmog for some extra survival. Anyways, that would be one up meta called Freezer Heartseeker build. What can I say? Very solid build. I hope we're gonna see some buff for the next season for the Heartseeker. And that would be that for this build. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.